In 2008 and 2009, a survey was conducted throughout Armenia on the issue of gender-based violence, more specifically relating to domestic violence against women. The study provided data that was representative of the population of Yerevan, as well as other cities and villages. In total, 2,763 women aged 15 to 59 were interviewed as part of the study. A group of key experts from the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, the Ministry of Health, and the police, as well as NGOs and the scientific community, analyzed the data and prepared a national report. The working definition used was that of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, according to which gender-based violence is violence that is directed against a woman because she is a woman, or violence that affects women disproportionately.
The overwhelming majority of women agreed that violence includes any act which results in physical injury or coercion to sexual intercourse. Around 90% of respondents from urban areas and 80% of those from rural areas considered forced sex to be violence. Around 80% of respondents considered degrading women in public to be violence. Forbidding a woman to work and withholding money have been considered to be violence by around 70% of women from urban areas and 50% from rural areas.
Four main forms of domestic violence have been identified: physical, psychological, sexual, and economic. Controlling behavior is discussed separately. Physical violence involves intentionally using physical force, strength, or a weapon to harm or injure the woman. Around 9% of the ever-partnered women surveyed said that they had been subjected by their intimate partners to at least one form of physical violence. 8% of the women in this group reported having been slapped or having something injurious thrown at them. Around 4.5% were pushed or shoved, more than 4% were punched, and 2.3% were kicked, dragged, or beaten. Less than 1% of women had been subjected to severe forms of physical violence. There were attempts to choke or burn them. The partners of 0.5% of the women threatened to use or actually used a gun, knife, or other weapon against them.
Sexual violence is any sexual act, attempt to obtain a sexual act, unwanted sexual comments or advances, or acts to traffic or otherwise directed against a person's sexuality using coercion by any person in any setting. 3% of women in the sample admitted that their intimate partners had forced them to have sex against their will. Around 2% confessed to having sexual intercourse against their will out of fear of what their partner might do. 4 in 5 sexually abused women were also abused physically. Every 5th woman subjected to physical violence is also a victim of sexual abuse.
Psychological abuse. This is the most prevalent form of domestic violence. Every 4th ever-partnered woman among those surveyed had been subjected to at least one kind of psychological abuse of those listed in the questionnaire. Around 1/4 of women had been insulted by their intimate partner. Around 8% of women had been humiliated in the presence of others. More than 5% of women reported that partners had broken household items or used other means to deliberately intimidate them. Around 3% were threatened that they or someone they cared about would be hurt.
Economic disempowerment of women, including economic deprivation, is regarded as economic violence against women. Around 7.5% of surveyed women reported that their husband or partner had forbidden them to work. In the cases of 9% of working women, their salaries had been confiscated. Controlling behavior is a form of psychological abuse. Around 62% of women surveyed had been subjected to controlling behavior of some kind. In around 16% of cases, women were restricted from seeing their friends and relatives. In around 21% of cases, women have been forbidden from speaking to other men. 7% of women were suspected of being unfaithful.
The picture of domestic violence as presented by the national report is accurate to the extent to which the surveyed women were ready to speak of the gender-based violence to which they had been subjected. In reality, the picture is a lot more serious and the situation is gloomier.